unschooling gets a bad reputation. I don't think unschooling doesn't mean not doing school. I think it means doing it the way your kids want to do school. It doesn't mean letting them game all day. It does sometimes mean letting your night owls sleep in the morning a little bit. It can totally be done, and it doesn't mean your kids don't have the drive to do whatever it is. 3 out of our kids work for us for the company because we own a company on the road that's knee deep in this industry too. And so outside of Learn to RV. And so our boys work really hard for us doing that.
Welcome to the RV Queens podcast, where adventure meets the open road. I'm your host, Charlie Grace, rolling through life 1 mile at a time, sharing stories, interviews, tips, and real talk about RV living, travel, and the freedom to chase your own version of home. Whether you're a full-time RVer, a weekend warrior, or just RV curious, you're in the right place. So buckle up, grab your favorite drink, and let's hit the road together. If you've ever wanted to learn how to RV, I think I've got the best guests for you guys today. And they're two amazing ladies, and they have the same exact name. They're both named Jennifer, but one is Jen and one is Jennifer, and they're pretty awesome. So ladies, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having
me.
Okay, this is going to be a lot of fun because I love talking to women who are on the road. And you guys I want to hear about, okay, I'm going to start with Jen because I got to be specific how I move this. Jen, how did this whole thing start?
I've been on the road 8 years. And so maybe about 9 years ago, my parents actually introduced us to other YouTubers. Like they're like, oh, you got to watch this YouTube channel. You got to see these people, like what they're doing. They're living in their RV. And I'm like, what? Who does that? I didn't even know that was a thing, And so we watched the show and we're like, oh, that is really cool. And we love to travel. I mean, that was, Phil and I, my husband, we were kind of like, we traveled every chance we got in between work, school breaks, whatever. And so we're like, this would be really cool, but we had no way to do it. We had no income. We have to have an income to go on the road, and so we were just like, it's just a dream. And a year later, we made it a reality. So it was kind of cool how crazy it all came together and stuff. But yeah, we love it.
That's really cool. Okay, Jennifer, how about you? How did you start?
So we're kind of like, we've been doing this. This is our 13th year traveling full time. And so my husband retired from the Marine Corps in 2012. And for 7 years prior to that, he wanted to do this. And I said, no, just no, this was not what I wanted. This was not how I wanted to do it. And so, a year later, I came home from an event and I said, hey, let's go on the road full time in an RV. And he said, okay. So the next morning he sold the television. 90 days later, we were on the road full time with 6 out of 7 of our kids. And so it's kind of a journey for us. And now our whole community is out here. We didn't start out as Learn to RV. This actually wasn't even started till 2016. And my friend Doug started it. And so 3 years ago, that's kind of, the adventure that we're on is, where does it take us? And we wanted to keep everything within the community. So, we're still traveling with 3 out of 7 of our kids. Some of them have moved out and graduated. But we still have a 13, a 15, and a 19-year-old still traveling with us. And so we're still out here. We're still doing it. And, it's just like anywhere. Some days we love it and some days we don't.
I get it. I totally get it. Okay, now we brought up kids because I've got kids too. I know what this is like. However, mine are, and I'm not, I always say I'm an empty nester because they're never going to be, I love a big family. I love my kids. But they don't travel with me. So they're traveling with y'all. How are you doing it? What schooling options are you doing? Because everybody wants to know. So Jen, we're going to start with you.
So I travel with 4 girls. I've got 4 daughters, ages 9 to 15. And, we homeschool or road school or unschool. I mean, whatever term you want to put on it. We follow a little bit more, us personally, the unschooling method where we kind of let our kids lead and direct the way of their learning and how they want to do it and what they want to learn when, and we don't push it. And it works really well for us. So we don't necessarily have specific curriculum for them. Our oldest has decided in the last year that she does want more structure because she wants to go to college and she's got big dreams. And so she started an affiliate program through what's called a Becca. And so we did unaccredited this last year, and now she's going to be enrolling into accredited this year. So that way she can get her high school degree that way and do some dual enrollment in a couple years. And, her unaccredited classes last year, I mean, this is the first structure she's had, and she got all A's and B's her first year, which is awesome. So it just goes to show, like, there's really no wrong way to educate your children. You just have to kind of listen to them and let them kind of help you learn how to teach them the best too. And, that's kind of what my big push is too, is listen to your kids and what they need.
Yeah. So I've been a homeschool mom forever. We started homeschooling when my youngest was 4. And, I had a friend that said, you can't mess up preschool. And so, so I ran with it. And, we were not as unschooly initially. We're more Charlotte Mason based. We do a lot of living books, which means that when you go to the library, you don't necessarily go to the kids section. You go to the adult section and read real stories by real people. And, obviously, you watch the content. So that's how it started. But obviously we couldn't travel with that on the road because that meant a whole library. And so back in 2013, Libby wasn't a thing and it was a little bit more challenging. So we started approaching it from more of an unschooling aspect in terms of we would have like math and reading on board, but all of our science and our history came from the places we were going, and we kept journals. Unschooling gets a bad reputation. I don't think unschooling doesn't mean not doing school. I think it means doing it the way your kids want to do school. It doesn't mean letting them game all day. It does sometimes mean letting your night owls sleep in the morning a little bit, but their better hours are mid to late afternoon. So you let them do schoolwork then. And so that's kind of our approach in that aspect. I have kids that have taken college level courses in high school, and, kids that have, I have 4 kids that have graduated. No, 5 kids that have graduated. One just still lives with us. And so she's actually looking at, going away this summer for a work camping job on her own to a place that might have, housing. And so she's off to maybe her own adventure. So, unschooling or road schooling, it can totally be done. And it doesn't mean your kids don't have the drive to do whatever it is. My older kids, 3 out of our kids work for us, for the company, because we own a company on the road that's knee deep in this industry too. And so outside of Learn to RV. And so our boys work really hard for us doing that.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. I know I've homeschooled a couple of my kids in junior high. I say junior high is like Lord of the Flies. So it's a rough time. They're walking hormones in the house.
Yeah. And our dynamic was so different. Like when we first started homeschooling, it was because Frank was an active duty Marine. And so every time he got orders, I swear it was like April or October, November. So you were either end of year or beginning of the next year. And so when we first started moving, it was kind of like, okay, well, this makes sense. And the more we did it, what I learned was I loved learning alongside my kids, and we could get involved and be leadership in homeschool groups and create co-ops. And so, we were on the front lines of that for many years. And in 2013, nobody was doing what we were doing out here. Like there were a handful of us. So we just created and dove deep and got involved in communities. And, that's why we're still here.
That's amazing. I'm so proud of you. I'm telling you, both of y'all, it's a big deal because this is a different lifestyle, one, and there's lots of societal, pressures and impressions of what's going on out there. And you guys are doing fantastic with your kids. You're great successes as you're talking about, learning how a person, I always say people learn visual, tactile, or auditory. And everyone has their own special, as adults, as kids, no matter what. And the fact that you're in tune with how your children are learning is fantastic. So woohoo, go moms.
Well, I think too, you have to be intentional. Like, we just got back to Florida yesterday. In the next several months will be us in Florida so that we can get together. Next week, Jen and I will actually be in the same park together. And so, so it's all about intentionality at that point. So I don't think you can just say, hey, I'm going to hit the road with my kids and then never meet another soul. I think you have to be very intentional and make sure that you're engaging. And, that's part of what Learn to RV is too. So,
you can do it for a season.
I was out there on the road by myself, desperately looking for community, trying to find that tribe. And I know as families, you really want to find your tribe. You want to find those things, but it's sort of awkward just walking up to someone and going, hey, how are you? I got 4 kids. You got 4 kids. Let's be best friends.
And that's changed as I've aged too. So, I also am a grandma. And so we have 2 kids with my son is, his wife is pregnant with our first grandchild out of that marriage. And then my daughter has a grandchild up in North Carolina. So I'm not exactly your average mom. age that's out here on the road. And so I find that creates some challenges too. So I'm usually 10 years older than my peers because my youngest at home is 13. And so, I always tell people, don't count people out just because, they're older than you, doesn't mean they're not looking for the same types of connections.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. I want to talk about money. All about money, ladies. I mean, this takes money to do. I mean, I think when I started this, I didn't keep a budget, didn't have a journal, swiped the credit card. I said, I'll deal with it later. Not so much. Not a great plan, people. Not a great plan. Not what I would suggest. So when you start, I mean, you knew this was going to cost some money, Jen, and you were like, okay, how do we do this? Did you have a plan, like an idea, a financial idea, or has that changed since then?
Life is always changing and evolving. When we first, basically about a year after we discovered this lifestyle, well, I guess it wasn't even a year. It was about 3 months after we discovered this lifestyle. I fell into a business of graphic design. I had started doing some things for a friend, and then she told her friends, and then I started doing more, and I launched on Etsy and like overnight kind of become a hit success in the graphic design world. And then over the course of the years, I've just grown and evolved, so my company name is Designed on the Go. And, it's because I'm designing on the go. And so I work with small businesses all over the country. And I've got a couple big businesses that I work for as well. And that's kind of our, bread and butter. That's what keeps us going is me doing that. And then I pick up other things here and there to kind of fill the gaps or, subsidize. The last 5 years, we've done a lot of work camping and camp hosting as well to help subsidize all of that. So it's kind of about following the flow of life. In 2020, when the world was falling apart, we knew we had to subsidize the income. And so that's when we launched into the camp hosting and work camping world and, went down that for a few years. And this, I am hoping, is going to be our first summer when we're not work camping or camp hosting, which is exciting but scary all at the same time. So
my hats are off to you for camp hosting. I've seen a lot of amazing camp hosts over the past few years, and it's a hard job sometimes. It could be the skill set that you need for that. I would love for you to just say, do you have a degree in psychology? Because you have to deal with conflict.
You have to deal with people of all kinds and be prepared to deal with any situation that comes your way. And you have to be patient. Like, patience is the number one key. If you're not a patient person, you're not going to do very well in camp hosting because it takes a lot of patience to deal with all of the campers and their needs.
Good point. I like that. Okay, Jennifer, what about you guys? I know your husband was in the Marines, but how are you financially doing this now?
So it's crazy. So, I mean, there's kind of a progression, and I'm going to shorten it a lot. But so our first year on the road, we knew we needed to make more money. And so my husband met a guy who owned an RV roofing company, not the one we own now. And he said, we were just looking for a supplement, something that could make it more fun so that we didn't have to do everything for free. And so we were living off just his retirement, which he was an enlisted Marine. So that means we weren't making $1 million every payday. And so we were traveling on it. We had figured out how to budget and do that, but it didn't leave us a lot extra. It was kind of a lot of living on faith. At that point, we'd had a meager savings and we were renting our home at the time. In 2017, we knew we weren't going back to the house that we had bought the year before he retired. And so we sold that, and that was a mess. Don't do what I did is what my motto is. We sold it in 2017 when we did a rent to own in 2013. We had an agreed price and the market had skyrocketed, and we could have made tons more money in the state of California when that happened. But here we are. And so by 2020, we had met the original owner of the company we now own. And he had wanted just a marketing person. And so the company my husband worked for, there was no NDA that kept it so that I couldn't work for them because I didn't work for that company. And I wasn't it was an interesting time around the dinner table because we'd literally not talk about anything because I was working for a different company, but I was just doing his marketing, $400 a month. And the other company said, love you, mean it, but your wife's working for the other company. See ya. And so we went from having a really great income to almost nothing. And in between, we've work camped with our kids, done an Amazon Camper Force back when that was a thing. Camp hosted a couple times. And then we also have done work camping like opportunities because the kids didn't want to work for us. So they wanted to try it all. So we did what we thought we were going to do. But in 2022, I was offered a 50% partnership to RV Roofing Solutions by the original owner. And so I don't know why. Frank still did a few installs here and there for us. But last summer, our lives got flipped upside down because the night before he died, we were talking to him and everything seemed fine. And 10 days later, we hadn't heard from him and we had found out he had passed away. And so it became ours very quickly. We sprung into action, made sure all of our installers were taken care of because they're our teams. So we own RV Roofing Solutions. And last spring, we started owning Learn to RV. So it was just kind of a progression of things. And that was a culmination of, and Learn to RV, Frank calls it my passion project because it actually doesn't make a lot of money yet. But, we're hoping someday it can retire Jenn. And
I think knowing the story behind the story is important. I mean, the product Learn to RV is a fantastic. I love that. I always say what you do and do what you say. Very simple. You're going to learn to RV. We're going to learn from some of our mistakes. You're going to learn from some tips and tricks and whatever it is and take you through a process, which I love. Community is so important. I think that is the key right there. And that's one of the reasons why we have the RV Queens community is, we were looking for women, specifically, honestly, women entrepreneurs who are out there living this lifestyle, and how are we supporting each other in business? Because there is no RV Women Chamber of Commerce entrepreneurial thing. We're it. That's what we are actually. So that's sort of how we stepped up to the plate and said, okay, let's do this and let's show the world, if I need graphic design, I could call Jenn. Who knew? I didn't know. And this is something you could think of. If I need a roof, guess where I'm going to call Jennifer. So there's all these things out there that we want to be able to support each other more importantly, but also let the world know we exist because there are more women business owners in the world, honestly. If you really want to get down to it. And we, kick some, and take some.
Well, and it's funny, as somebody that sells RV roofs for a living, a lot of times guys don't take me seriously at the booth. And so there was a perfect example of that. Last year, my son was in a booth with me and it was his first show doing it with me as like my sidekick. And so this guy walks up and he sits down and he starts talking to Justin, and Justin looks at me and he goes, "You need to talk to her." He goes, "But you're the guy in the booth." And so I think as RV Roofing Solutions, that's a bigger hurdle for us than as Learn to RV. Although Doug Setzer, this was his baby. And so, and it took him 2.5 years to give it up. So, I mean, when I acquired it last year, it was 2.5 years of just kind of, if you're going to do this, I want it to stay in the community. I didn't want some big business to snatch it up. That's happening across the industry as we speak. And so I wanted it to stay community focused. And so Learn to RV does have its own Facebook group. It's 14,000 members strong and growing every day. And so not only is there that, but we've added more groups that are super important to this, including the Ladies Chick Chat. And that's just a place for ladies to gather. It's a free way to go. And, you're welcome to go in there and share, what you're doing with RV Queens in that group at any time, because that's just the type of community. We want to have a group that's like across the board, if that makes sense. So where everybody is a part of each other, so that when we cross paths in Florida this winter, we're not like, "Oh, hey, I didn't know you were here," but like, "Oh yeah, let's plan a get together and let's go have a ladies' night out in Orlando." And so, and I think that could happen. I think that could be real.
I think that's perfect. Absolutely. And I'm definitely coming to Florida this winter. So watch out, ladies. I'm counting down the days. I got things coming up. Well, this is good. So, all right. So we've talked about this. Let me just recap this for a second. Let me see. We've talked about, how we started, how we deal, I won't say deal with the kids, but how we educate the kids while we're on the road, because that's really important. How we're funding the meals, what we're doing for livelihood, which is also big. And we talked about Learn to RV as your passion project. What do you think and I love the podcast, by the way. I listen, I am on the Chick Chat Facebook group. I'm on these things, girl. I'm there. I get this. I do my research. But what is something that you really would like to accomplish personally or with your Learn to RV in the next few years? Is there something like honestly, I'm a very creative person. So I have these crazy, I've photographed an album cover, check. I say I want to design a beer can or a wine label. for fun. These are just things that I want to do because I like doing that. So what is something that you might want to do in the next umpteen many years that would be just for you?
I just want to be able to, pour into the community more and further and reach further than we have already. I mean, one of my big things, like one of our favorite podcasts was actually when we talked about overcoming the fears and the anxiety of launching into full-time RV life. Because one of the things that I see a lot in Facebook is people go, oh, I want to live this life. I want to live this life, but I can't, or this or that. And they have a million excuses and reasons or anxieties or things that come up. And I just want to help those people realize, like, if this is a dream, if this is something you want to do, it can be done. My big motto in life is it's never a matter of whether or not something can be done, but rather how can it be done? And it's always just about looking at things in every which way you can until you find the right way to make it work for your situation. So I would love Learn to RV to kind of be my soul thing. I'd love to be able to step away from Designs on the Go eventually. I'd love to be able to put more heart, more time, more passion into the RV community, because I think it's needed and I think it's necessary. And I think people, can really gain some value from it.
Well, I mean, I'm similar, RV Roofing Solutions, the goal is someday my son will take it over. He's not quite there yet. He's 26. But, the goal is in the next 5 years to have him as the CEO. So by then, I would hope that Learn to RV could give us more fun, more opportunities, more, I never set out to be an influencer. I started out in 2013. I know all the influencers. I've seen them all come and go. I never put myself in a position where I felt like we were going to be it ever, because I never tried. And so like our Narrow Road Schoolers is our like original, and it's like 1,700 followers. And I'm perfectly happy with that. If you want to follow our family's journey, that's the way to find us. But it was never like, hey, I have to create content. I was never, and people don't realize that once you step into that world, it's a whole different world. You have to create content. And so I don't want to label us as content creators, but I think ultimately that's what we become. But I don't want Learn to RV just to be for the new RVers. I think there's value in the new items that are out there, the new products, the new people that are out there. And as a vendor in this industry, I have a different type of connection than almost anyone else, even in the podcast world, except maybe you, because you do come to events and stuff and have a booth, but most podcasters are not appearing in a booth anywhere. And so like for Tampa this year, we'll be at the Content Creators event. Jen will be in the booth with us at RV Roofing Solutions in the B building at Tampa. And so she knows enough about our products because when I met her, it was in Quartzsite and I drug her to a rally. Like I went over, knocked on her door and said, hey, what are you doing? And she's like, nothing. And I'm like, well, hey, we're having this rally. Why don't you come be a part of it? And so that goes back a bunch of years. So as soon as we were in a position to need graphics, I knew who I was going to. And so it's all community based in that way. So the heart of Learn to RV, I would love for it to be the go-to place for people to just find connection, community, and come alongside for what we're building. The goal is Learn to RV, the products themselves, not like the Facebook groups and stuff, will remain free. There is a Patreon channel that you can support us if you want to for extra episodes and bonus content. But the goal is to make it accessible for everyone because we have been part of all the paid communities and I'm not opposed to those. Because, I mean, we're starting a chapter in FRVA for families right now. I'm charter number 36 in full-time families. So I've been, around a couple days. But I also think that there's nothing wrong with a little more community. And so if that community and, even in Girl Camper, if there was a need for a family group, we would be happy to help you get that off the ground because we think more community, more connection is critical in this lifestyle. And so I guess that's the aspect of it for me that's the most important is the connection side of things. Because I also know that most of my friends get off the road in 18 to 24 months if they don't find it.
Absolutely. That is absolutely true. I talk about the 3-year cycle. I talk about, you're so excited, you get the RV, you do that Grand Canyon trip, and then you come home, and you're like, okay, and maybe do a little weekend warrior stuff, which is fine. Then by the 3rd year, you're like, what do I do now? Because they haven't met their tribe. No, I'm serious. They haven't met their tribe. They haven't found their events. They haven't found their whatever it is. And if you haven't within that time period, that's when they go, okay, thanks, no thanks, I'm done, I'm out. And that's okay. There are lots of people like that. And that's fine. And not everyone, and this is where I get a little controversial, guys. You can get on me about this one. Many of these rigs are not meant to be lived in full time.
No, that's very true.
We actually agree with that.
So I have to be very, very careful when I say this, because some people get really mad at me, but I have to express that, when these are designed, they're meant to be used for 30 days a year. That's it. And have a lifespan of X. So these are not, I call it longevity situations. All right. If you're going to buy an RV, it's shower curtain money. It doesn't have any appreciative value. It's just, if you can't afford it, don't do it, kind of thing. So it's a different way of looking at it. Now, there are some really, and I have to say this too, there are some very nice, I'm currently in, I know it looks so sexy in the background here. I'm currently in a 4-season RV, but it's not really meant for full-time living. But I'm on the road. I'm literally on the road about 9 months a year, doing events and public speaking and things like that, because I'm an infotainer. Different than a content creator. I'm coining that term for me as an infotainer, because I do a lot of informative talks that are highly entertaining, because I have a background in comedy. So there you go. I love it. I'm born with a face for radio, not for seeing in public. I'm fine with that. I think this is really cool, because I love hearing women that are doing things, making money on the road, which is really what this is about. Connecting other entrepreneurs and other women businesses together in the RV industry and travel industry is something that I'm really passionate about. We like to find out, right, for this, guys, now that you've been on the road a while, and you've been on the road a while, guys, what is your favorite place to park?
That's easy. It's where my friends are. It really is. So, I can make it work wherever. And, I have. And so, we're headed to, Central Florida in the next week or so. And it's not just Jen and I are the meeting up there, but Tasha will be there. And so and it's all about the community. And so, I think that, traveling is fun, and I have places that I love. I have favorite restaurants in certain towns, sometimes because I love going back, sometimes because that's where we end up every summer, because we're up in Goshen, Indiana for events. And so, but at the same time, it's the people that make the difference.
I have to agree with that as well, especially seeing how, we went the first 2 years of our RV life not meeting a single other family on the road. And it was a very lonely 2 years. It's kind of surprising we even survived past 2 years, because we didn't have a tribe or a community. And I will say there's times I still feel like we don't have a tribe or community, but we're working on it, and it's still growing. So being where people are makes a huge difference. When we are with other people, I don't really care where we are, but I will say that I like to be anywhere where there's a view. Put me in the mountains with a good trail to hike, a good lake to walk around, and I'll be happy there too. I can set up a hammock and just relax the afternoon away, and I'm golden. So
I'm like that with a beach. So, if all my friends wanted to gather at a beach, I'd be okay with that.
No problem with that. We'll find you a beach place. I'm anti-alligator, anti-bear. That sounds crazy. Anti-shark. Those are my 3 things.
That's all of them.
That's all of them. That's a big one in each of those locations.
I can deal with the scorpions. I can deal with the toads. I can deal with the snakes. Just not a big shark fan. Not a big bear person. I love them. They're really cute. I like the wooden ones outside the store.
They're good from a distance. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah. You don't want to run into one while you're hiking.
No.
That's a story for another time.
Yeah.
Well, and technically we shouldn't even have a podcast. That's kind of a crazy adventure in and of itself. So our friend came to us this summer and said, hey, you should have a podcast. And I know the greatest host. And so we interviewed the host. We thought we were going to go forward with somebody, not us. And it didn't work out. They didn't really want to talk about road schooling. And it was fine. It just was not supposed to be that person. And so I was driving through South Dakota visiting Jen, and I said, hey, so do you want to start this podcast? She goes, no, in my previous life, I was a videographer. And I was like, what? And so the podcast was kind of a off the cuff, crazy moment. And then Tasha, we had this conversation, and Jen and Tasha had not met, because I'm a connector.
We still haven't met.
Right.
We get to meet
so
next
I'm a connector. Yeah. So I'm a connector. So what I do is I find people that I know will love each other and introduce them, and then I'm out of a friend. And so for the first 5...
She's a matchmaker.
Yeah. So for the first 5 years on the road, that's exactly what I did. After 5 years on the road, I started realizing what I was doing, and I started leaving my friends in different corners of the planet and having friendships that were separate so that I kept some friends in this world. And so, so this is a big step for me to let Tasha meet Jenn. But the reality is very simple is, so Tasha was a radio DJ for 3.5 years while she was in college. And so it just made sense. It was crazy. We had no experience in the podcast world. So we researched and we did all the things, but it was kind of one of those, all right, let's do this. Let's at least try it. And we got to stay with it for at least the next 12 months and see how it goes. So the launch in Hershey was even crazier because we didn't drop one episode. We dropped 5.
But that's what you're supposed to do in the podcast world.
But that's all Jenn. So Jenn is our editor. So sometimes the heaviest load falls on her. And, I just want to make sure she knows that we appreciate everything she does. So, and if you're doing any of that yourself, you know how hard that is.
It's a lot of work. It's like people have no idea when they say, "Oh, we love your 10-minute video." I'm like, "Yeah, it took 10 hours. It's an hour per minute of
Exactly.
Just, you know that. Appreciate everyone listening, but it takes a lot of time and effort to do these things. It's a little crazy." Well, ladies, all right. So I think this is fantastic. I can't say enough. I'm going to give you, if you could think of one piece of advice you could give someone who's thinking about not just getting on the road, but trying to make money on the road. What's something you think that they should try or look into?
Figure out what you're passionate about and try to find something along those lines, because it goes back to that old saying of, if you enjoy what you're doing, you never work a day in your life. And this lifestyle is all about kind of freedom and chasing after your dreams, and you want to enjoy what you're doing. Yes, you get to be anywhere, but enjoying what you're doing while you're anywhere is great. And then don't give up. If the first thing you try doesn't work, try again, and keep trying until you do find something that does work for you.
Well, it's an absolute pivot. So, I mean, that's just it. You need to be able to, I think you should come out with a plan, and you don't have to stick to the plan, but have a job lined up. There's so many people that we've seen over the years that launch without a plan. And so I don't care if that plan is work camping for the first 6 months, whatever that plan is, but then stay with it, and that's a pitch for work campers out there. So many people don't finish their season. And so, having that experience and then going into whatever you're doing next, you'll meet people, go to the shows, go to the rallies, make those connections, because it's not necessarily about going to the show or the rally to buy something. It's to walk around and meet all the people, because they might be looking for work and they might have something that you're looking for. So I think that you have to look outside the box when you're doing this lifestyle. And it's funny because we all live in boxes when we're doing it. But, the reality is your box moves. And if you don't like something, you can always change and pivot exactly where you're going. So, but I think that the biggest thing that we see is people that try and then fail because they don't have an income stream. And this is way more expensive than most people ever realize it is. So ask people from the Broke Down Engine Club. So
Understood. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today. This has been very enlightening, and I'm so excited to put this out there for other ladies and our listeners to hear. And if you guys want to check them out, learntorv.com. Check out their podcast.
Yes.
Check out their website. Check out the groups. I love it. It's a great thing.
Well, thanks
so much for having us.
Thanks for tuning into the RV Queens podcast. I hope you found inspiration for your next adventure, on or off the road. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on social media at RV Queens Community for behind-the-scenes stories and travel tips. Until next time, keep your wheels turning and your spirit wild. We'll see you down the road.